20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Cardiff were here, though, in 1973 when they lost heavily to Llanelli, and today here they are back at the National Stadium for what their captain Gerald Davies describes as a dream final against their ancient rivals Newport. Let's have a look at their progress charts then. There's no doubt that Cardiff have had by far the harder pathway, disposing of cup holders Llanelli, Pontypool away, and another vastly experienced cup side in Aberavon. The two flags of the clubs, the black and amber of Newport, the blue and black of Cardiff, and the red dragon of Wales in between them. Now, Newport had a desperate escape at Tumble, where the victory went to them by virtue of scoring a try, but they did rise above themselves to defeat Ebbw in a thrill-packed semi-final. As for the teams now, Newport appeared to have been harder hit by the calls of the Lions Tour, and they're short of their crack centres, Dave Birch and Gareth Evans, for whom Neil Brown and surprise choice Chris Webber stand in. David Rogers at standoff is the key man behind the scrum, just as Squire and Barrow and Poole need to dominate the loose play of a pack which includes the captain Colin Smart. A glimpse for you of the river end of the ground, the west terrace having been demolished to make room for the west stand. Two effects from that: a little less shelter from the slight breeze from that end, and the crowd potential diminished by 5,000. Well, Colin Smart's opposite number is one of the two Cardiff trump cards, Gerald Davies, recently made club captain for a third year, and the great Gareth Edwards, of course. Cardiff say that Newport's midfield loss is balanced by the absence of their standoff Gareth Davies, for whom Paul Evans stands in. Nelms, Nill and Robinson are Cardiff's trio of international forwards. Mr. Kenneth Thomas, one of the Welsh Rugby Union's panel of 3 international referees, handles this, the 6th cup final of modern times. And as Mr. Thomas didn't get an international match this season, this is a great consolation prize for him. Leighton Davis starts for Newport, going left to right, and Cardiff will have to drop out. This the prize that, above all, Cardiff want to lift in their centenary season. John Davis with the dropout. The National Stadium turf in absolutely immaculate shape. A great credit to Mr. Hardiman, the groundsman and his staff. Squire for Newport with the captain number 1, Smart, locking with him and binding. Billinghurst, strange pass to Rogers. Paul Evans got in the way at Cardiff's standoff half, and the play stops. At fullback for Newport, Leighton Davis. The first of these modern cup finals in which one of the colours has not been scarlet, and that means that the cup this year will have a new name on it, and it will come to East Wales first of all. Billinghurst almost swallowed by Edwards, and Bob Dudley-Jones, number 7, making it difficult for him. Morgan 6 joins in, and Cardiff get a penalty because Billinghurst didn't release the ball. Edwards looking for the space. One is bound to describe the presence of Gareth Edwards as one of Cardiff's 2 trump cards. The other just passing him was Gerald Davis. Now then, some of the numbers. Morgan's at the back for Cardiff, opposite Dick Barrell of Newport. The 8s are Jeff Squire and Roger Lane, and the other back row men are Dudley Jones and Keith Poole of Newport. Paul Evans going on his own, 10 metres out. Not offside against Rogers. There was no scrummage at that point in time. Cardiff, after this loose possession, midfield under the posts. Newport lined up to defend. Cardiff back in arrowhead formation as Edwards drops, and a very valuable charge down by Billinghurst. The ball's with Cranton breaking out of the 22. It's available for Newport. Billinghurst, that's young Webber, the surprise choice in the centre this week. He plays it past John Davis, goes into the Cardiff 22 and puts it to touch. John Davis in action then, and perhaps that's an early indication of the pace this final will be played at. Newport make 75 metres. Ian Barnard, the heaviest man on the field at 18 stone, something of a veteran, 34 years of age. And it's for the end, it's for Squire to try and drop it down to Barrow. Cardiff win, and Edwards tries to hand off David Ford. The inside pass goes to Poole, and Smart knocks on. A thick line, Cardiff's 22. Smart, David Ford and Rhys Morgan in the Newport front row. Barry Nelms, Alan Phillips and nil for Cardiff. Billinghurst with the ball, the 19-year-old who had a secondary school's cap last year. His delivery out to Rogers. Supposed to be a tactical kick, but it's not going forward. Gerald Davis waits. Cranton challenged him. Neil Brown's on the ball, flips it back to Cranton. Webber with the ball now. Billinghurst slipped away to Cranton, who's knocked on. That's Jeff Cranton, Newport's trialist on the left wing. Pressure being exerted by Newport. They're inside Cardiff's 22. Now, the big effort they're making this afternoon is to try and subdue the Cardiff 8 and make things hot for Gareth Edwards. That's an expert narrow angle kick. Gareth Edwards probably would dearly love to take a medal away from this cup final, one honour that so far has escaped him. David Ford away on the left, the last minute stand-in for Steve Jones, who scorched himself with a sun lamp during the week. A good take by Barnard at the front. Waters trying to help him. Billinghurst ball, well won by Newport. Little burst by Webber, Leighton Davis, and here comes a try for Ken Davis. Brilliant try, Newport in the lead at 4-0. 6.5 minutes in, Ken Davis scores the first try of the cup final. Newport really working for that maul ball away on the left. Neat little break by the inside backs. Leighton Davis in the line, they miss him. Ken Davis given about 25 metres to sprint, and he makes it about 5 metres from touch. A grand try. Well, that's a tremendous blow to strike so early in the game, and the Newport midfield, which had thought to be perhaps a little weak, showing its calibre and its mettle and really creating that try for its winger. Leighton Davis, who was certainly in the movement if he didn't actually handle, entrusted with a conversion attempt. A little breeze on his back. He may have calculated it well. What a narrow miss. Probably was the breeze that didn't allow the kick to straighten, and so Cardiff trail 4-0. Newport are on top at this point in time. Robinson is the first man for Cardiff. Nill is just coming in front of him. Nelms, the vice-captain, is the middle. Carl Smith further back. Roger Lane, the number 8, hands on hips. Dudley Jones and Morgan at the end. Opposite Squire and Poole for Newport. And the thick line is the 22 of Newport. Smith just about defeating the tall Waters, who's got 4 inches on him. That's another kick to Cardiff for use of the hand at the ruck by Newport. The tall Waters getting to his feet last, and he may have been the offender. So John Davis entrusted with this important kick. As you can see, it's an inviting position, and the wind that's coming in his face off the taff is not a strong one. It's just a breeze, that's all. John Davis now 5 years with Cardiff, but has he had a more important kick, I wonder? That is over off the post. It doesn't matter, the points count, and Cardiff have cut the deficit a little to 1 point. In fact, the penalty kick 10.5 minutes into the game by Cardiff fullback John Davis. Mervyn, that's interesting. Mervyn Davis sitting beside me as always. That's interesting, just under 11 minutes into this cup final.
What a start to a cup final. It's an exciting start with perhaps the Newport forward supplying a little better ball than the Cardiff opponents. Their smuggled ball, certainly for that first try, was superb, and they've done it several times since then.
Cardiff's 22 then. I'm inclined to say that the slight majority, the slight bulk of the pressure so far has come from Newport. With the pack controlling things, making things good for Waters. That's the burst by Brown. Could Ken Davis be going in for a second try? The flag is up. My word, the Cardiff midfield defence is very uncertain against the young Newport men. And Ken Davis nearly had the metre he needed for a second try. Dave Bircher and Gareth Evans in the stand must be proud of the way the Newport midfield is standing in for them. Cardiff's line, it's in the grip of Nelms. Newport closing the line in their eagerness and being penalised. Edwards' kick, beautiful model of a screw kick. Didn't have great length as it turned out, but safe, that is the point. The only evidence of this season, they've missed one of their traditional games. Cardiff won the only game they've played before, 14-12, early in the season. Waters, he seemed to be getting a lift then. Barnard, and he's got Cardiff offside in the midfield, and it was thanks to the dummy by Barnard. And that is the value of the catch and hold at the line out, as opposed to the tap. It can draw the Cardiff midfield, your opponent's midfield, into indiscipline and errors. And this indeed is promising for Leighton Davis. Leighton was in the cup final in '73 when he was on the Cardiff side. Since those days he's been with the Black and Ambers. This is the end of his second season with them. And let's remind ourselves that this afternoon he's had 2 shots at goal and missed them so narrowly, his conversion attempt and his penalty shot. But this one, for an expert place kicker like him, presents no problems. This to take Newport to 7. That's it. That I'm really inclined to think is the reward for great pressure by Newport. Leighton Davis's kick just consummating it, but they've been on the offensive for the last 10 minutes or so. 3 points is their reward. There's a ploy from Cardiff. Nil is at the front of an abbreviated or shortened line-out. Robinson just behind him, then Smith, then Dudley Jones. Waters at the end for Newport. Squire, Barnard, and at the front, Rhys Morgan. Dudley Jones defeats Squire. Edwards, Paul Evans, Morgan, I think, left it. That's good work by Newport. Billinghurst goes away, and Leighton Davis was hovering to help. John Davis trapped near touch. Gets around Cranton very well. Mistake by Cardiff. Poole sends Farrell away. Farrell goes up to 22. Gives it to Cranton. And I think it was Edwards put the charge in. Gareth Edwards, his presence there important for Cardiff, stopping the burst by the big Newport wing. The Cardiff men on the right really haven't been supplying Gareth Edwards and the Cardiff backs with much quality ball yet. Newport's aim, John Ryan, their coach, told me, was to try and subdue the Cardiff 8, and they're some way along that road, in my opinion. However, they're lifted then, and they've conceded the greater number of penalties. Cardiff have had 6 of these kicks, one of which they put over, and Newport have had just 3. That's a marvellous kick. When you've got 49 caps, it must almost be like playing at home for Gareth Edwards. And it was still a wonderful kick. Newport's 22, Barnard's challenge. Nelms knocks it back. Edwards plays it out to Paul Evans. This is young Murphy. Finlayson on the crash, slips it away to John Davis. Camilleri confronted by Ken Davis and held by him. He'd nearly put clear, but the pass travelling a little way behind him. It was a good move by Cardiff. And Newport have held them up just about 12 metres out. Their try line is in the background. And the play halts. Good running by Cardiff. The crowd enjoyed that. Even the Newportonian right in the middle of your view. Newport up against it then. Edwards with the put in. Cardiff turned to contain the pressure, and it's up to them to challenge. Looks as if Lane's going to pick it up. Edwards gone off. Pressure off. Trying to make an extra man. Edwards moving away. No support for him. He went too quickly. A knock on and careless work by Webber, and the game is still dangerous for Newport. 5-6 metres out, the posts at hand, and the knock on by Webber brings the play back to a set scrum for Cardiff. Edwards had a burst. I wonder if he'll dare to repeat it. It's tailor-made for him. There's no drop goal on from the half-backs. They're lining up for a routine move, and David Ford has done it against the odds. A great favour, a take against the head. The technical ability of David Ford is highly respected in Welsh rugby, and that's one of the reasons why. That's Ford, man who did the trick under his own posts. Barry Nelms, the vice-captain, Cardiff pack leader, really knows that he ought to be lifting the Cardiff 8's effort. Barnard and the Newport 8 are in the ascendant at the moment. The ball's with Barrel off Squire. Here's Barnard, handing off Phillips, making a bit of room for Rogers. Here's Camilleri. Charged down by Ken Davis. John Davis trying to cover. Camilleri falls. Ken Davis to pick up. Keith Poole is in support, and he may have knocked on over the line. Cardiff's back division is full of nerves. And that's the second mistake that nearly cost them dear. Ken Davis nearly setting up a try for Poole. Cardiff's turn to withstand the pressure. Wheeling to give Edwards room. This is Gareth Edwards' opposite number at the other end of the experience range, Alan Billinghurst, a trainee health inspector, and I wonder how healthy he feels at the base of the Newport scrum. He's fairly well protected this afternoon, and that's good delivery from Waters. It comes to Jeff Squire, now Barrel, the other back row forward, bounces off Finlayson, frees it for Brown, trying to get it to Webber. Leighton Davis, out to Webber now, out to Cranton, poor pass. Webber's finding it difficult to settle to this centre position. There have been two poor passes that he's given. He's probably more aware of it than anyone else, and he knows he'll have to tidy up a bit. Three minutes left of the first half. Cardiff's 22 is the scene. Here's Nelms using his immense bulk. Another 17-stoner, Nil, playing it to Dudley Jones now. Squire gets in the way, sets off on a counter-attack. He's gripped by Gerald Davis, 14 for Cardiff. And the play's near Cardiff's 10-metre line. And it comes to Rogers. And Edwards waits as Cranton comes into him. I wonder if he's been awarded a mark. Poole on the left is on the mark for Newport. Edwards goes into the 22. That's Cranton who collared him as he made the mark. The two British lines. Gerald with Gareth, perhaps a word of encouragement in the scrum half's ears from his captain. The flag is up on halfway. with the left foot too. Two minutes of the first half left, which is taking place in front of this jumbo-sized crowd. Billinghurst, Rogers, Webber. John Davis waits near his 10-metre line. Cranton waits now. Going to be challenged by Gerald Davis. Pulls the kick a bit. There's the Cardiff captain urging the boys. He wants a bit more out of them. He himself in the game just once this half. Cardiff now acknowledging Newport's slight superiority at the lines out, trying to vary the tactic. Dudley Jones down to Edwards, now to Paul Evans. Very good tackle on him by the Newport back row. Back to Edwards, trying to create some space. That's an awkward chip past Cranton. Gerald Davis is going in at full speed. One of Cardiff's better positions of the half, 7 or 8 metres away from the try line of Newport. Waters, the tall Newport lock, with the ball, but the ball not straight. So this is almost perhaps more awkward for Cardiff, for Newport with that try line behind them, and a lot of space for Cardiff to operate in. The try line yawns and perhaps beckons for Gareth Edwards. Lane trying to take the pressure off. Now Paul Evans. Now they get it free to Murphy. That's another awkward chip, teasing for Cranton. And Gerald Davis could get the touchline. It's not a try though. Kenneth Thomas right on the scene. We think that the referee may be limping slightly, but at that stage he was correctly positioned, and Gerald Davis's appeal for the try not upheld. Well, amid all the excitement, we've moved into injury time. We're half a minute in, and Cardiff looking like ending the half with their tails up, but we mustn't forget the pounding they've had to take throughout perhaps 3/4 of it. Carl Smith waits. That's a good catch by the lock. Took Newport's momentum right out. Paul Evans, they're hotting it up for Leighton Davis. Into him goes Murphy, turns him, tries to make it possible for Cardiff to ruck. Here's Mike Nill, laying it back to Gareth Edwards for Camilleri to try and run onto. We've reached the interval. Enthralling stuff, 7-3 to Newport. John Davison, Cardiff finding it difficult to wriggle their way away from their 22. They're not clearing their lines. That's a knock on by Billinghurst, and the pick-up by Phillips, who's now looking for support as he goes into the Newport half. Well played back. Edwards, he knows there's some space. That's the weapon that Newport fear. Wonderful kick. And finding the space precisely, the sign of a great player. Dudley Jones has backed off. Edwards is in support, but the smother tackle well done by Squire. Now it's Trevor Morgan driving to 5 metres out, and now it's Newport under pressure for a change. And they'll have to pull out all their best mauling technique here. The whole 8 is committed, as was remarked earlier. Cardiff win though, and away goes Edwards, trying to break the tackle and just losing the ball at the last second. First he plays Cardiff there, and then he nearly scores for them. Mervyn, that was bad luck. He lost at the last moment, did he not?
Indeed he did. Gareth Edwards is a very difficult man to stop that close to the man. Pound for pound, he's probably one of the strongest men in rugby, and that is he's very, very hard to stop. I must admit, I've struggled in the past, but Newport still dominate the game territorially.
Waters got it, Barnard's got it now. And Robinson trying, number 4 for Cardiff, trying to stop Newport Smalling, but they don't, and Rogers puts in the clearance, which Gerald Davis waits for, but it is in touch. Rogers had to wait for Keith James's departure from Newport 3 years ago before he could come into his own, but now he's one of the key men on the side. So again, it's Nelms, number 1 for Cardiff, and his 8 who are under pressure. And Cardiff are inside the 22. With Phillips throwing. Bernard had dropped back to meet Smith. Rogers. Webber to Brown, who tries to slip Finlayson and goes into the 22 of Cardiff, where Newport hunger for the second phase. Cardiff in danger of going over the top, and they have done. They've been caught for going over the top at the ruck and using their hands, and a reminder that that position is right inside the 22. So that's a bad spot to give away a penalty opportunity. This time Newport make a change of kicker, and they bring Chris Webber and ask him to punch them into double figures and stretch them 2 scores away. If they can get up to 10, that will throw the onus on Cardiff to score twice to play their way back into the game. Chris Webber for Newport. 10-3. Tremendous acclaim from the Black and Ambers in the crowd, and that scoreline is an important one. And the ball is well and truly in Cardiff's court, with a little over half an hour of the cup final remaining. Big crowd is loving this game, which has all the flavour of an international match. The 10-metre line of the Black and Ambers, throw not straight. Welsh Rugby Union dignitaries watching the fate of their Challenge Cup being fought out. An MP of Newport, Roy Hughes, in the middle of the back row there. Down on the play, it's still the Black and Ambers 10-metre line. This ball control by Newport, we saw it in the semi-final, being brought to a high art. It was a little bit squandered then. John Davis. Cardiff still anxious to play themselves up to Newport's 22 before they run with freedom. Biggie and Robinson with his 2 caps for Wales back in '74. Newport's 22, the thick line. Carl Smith defeated by Waters. Barnard to help. Mr. Thomas, one feels, being a little lax with the offside ruling, and away goes Rogers. Tries to curve back to touch the Cardiff captain, Gerald Davis. Oh! One superb break. Is the support there? Wonderful little run by Gerald Davis. It took him a little way away from the support, though. Maybe it's time for Gerald Davis in the foreground to inject himself more into the game at this stage. We've seen one glimpse of what he can do when he really takes things into his own hands. Billinghurst to Rogers. This time Newport want the positional gain. And at the moment, the perhaps excitement quotient is down a bit. The battle of the tactical kicks. We move into the last quarter of the cup final. 7 points dividing them at 10-3, the Black and Ambers, as Paul Evans goes away and supplies the ball to Finlayson, who may have knocked on just outside Newport's 22. This is Ken Davis, who's done some good covering from the right wing for Newport. Finlayson swallows up Leighton Davis, and this is terribly dangerous for Newport. Their posts a few metres away, look. Cardiff play it back. Edwards to Paul Evans. Just about taken by Poole. It's with Dudley Jones, who burrows in. He's brought to earth by Barrell and Phil Waters. David Waters, rather. Here comes Edwards. They could have 3-2. A great pick-up by Camilleri, and he's just held on the line. Ken Davis, a tremendously important tackle, and he must have made ground to get there, because just now he was in a maul under the posts on the other side of the field. He had enough puff to catch Camilleri. Newport in trouble with 19 minutes of the game left. In the lead, 10-3, but right on their try line. Dudley Jones in possession in the middle of the maul. Robinson 4, doing some important work. Phillips played it back to Gareth Edwards. Paul Evans, dummy scissors. Murphy is knocked on, and away come Newport, setting up a counter-attack. Neil Brown couldn't quite get the pass in. Now it's flipped away to Rogers. John Davis gathers it. Gerald Davis gave him his orders. Keep the play alive. Make it hot for Newport in the box. Rogers makes a bit of a nonsense of that, and Webber's going to help him out if he makes up his mind in time. Plays it to Rogers. Rogers put down heavily by Smith, but it was not a late tackle. Smith went into him on the kick, and it was a strong, hard tackle. I must say that the cup final, after the rather turbulent semi-finals, has been a credit to the rugby game. It hasn't been an untoward incident, and one must forthrightly congratulate the two sides on the spirit. Cardiff have it all to do then. Gareth Edwards feeding it to Bob Dudley Jones. Newport's defence holding out. Here comes Roger Lane, the Cardiff number 8, into his vice-captain Nelms. Back to the number 8, out to Murphy. Pick up speed, Gerald Davis, round Cranton, round Waters, still going for the line. Perhaps should have given it to Roger Lane. Thought he could score himself, but the cover cut him down. But it's still dangerous as Phillips goes away and the whistle's gone. That might have been a try if Gerald had seen the support.
I think it would have, but I think he was in a good deal of pressure. Perhaps he didn't have time to pass the ball.
Newport's still in trouble though, and this time it'll be Edwards in the action. And Cardiff show their skill at ball control. And Lane plays it to him, and he gives it to Paul Evans. He cuts into open space, and he scores! Paul Evans, he converted by half, plays Cardiff back into the game with a superb little individual try. First of all, ball control by Cardiff, holding the Newport defence back. Great pass by Edwards. Paul Evans running away from Murphy's decoy. I thought he should have given it, but he got in. And meanwhile, John Davis, under the posts, puts the conversion over, and there is 1 point in this pulsating cup final. Well, that was tremendous Cardiff pressure, really, over a period of 5 or 8 minutes, and something had to crack, and in the end it was Newport. Irvin, this is the first cup final possibly that you've been up here feeling the atmosphere. Couldn't be more exciting.
Indeed, I must have been enjoying every moment of it. What a superb try there by Paul Evans as well, just to make the game far more interesting.
15 minutes to go. Now, who's got the finish at the National Stadium? Edwards still kicking for position. Oh! Imagine how it feels to be Newport and go back 60 metres So without a respite, the pressure is back on the black and ambers. It's a big, tall David Waters who's requiring a second to adjust his boot. That's what you call a talking to from the vice-captain and pack leader. Come on! We're still 1 point behind, boys, he's telling them. And the impassive Mike Nill, number 3, his great partner prop. And on the right, Robinson, 3 internationals at the core of this Cardiff lineup. Smith's behind them, then Lane, then Dudley Jones and Morgan. And Squire beats the lot. And Barnard is there to help him. And Smart's at the core of it too, number 1, the Newport captain. And number 6, Barrel too, is working well for Newport. And Billinghurst gives Rogers a chance to clear, but the lines are not clear yet. Dudley Jones is at the end. He mustn't go beyond 15 metres until the time comes. Here goes Edwards, just below the bar. How near can you get? Leighton Davis always has a sunny expression on his face, but that will now disguise the great tension that Newport are under as they struggle to keep their cool under this pressure, which is something pretty tough. Edwards goes away. Paul Evans, this time tackled by Neil Brown, comes to Morgan, comes to Finlayson, puts it all on the ground for Camilleri to chase, and Leighton Davis knocks it away to touch. To go. Newport's corner flag right at hand. Dudley Jones wins, down to Smith, just about gripped by Keith Poole to tidy it for Newport and clench the ball right on their try line. Two sets of forwards who've given everything and played this game of rugby in superb spirit. Billinghurst. Rogers, a fine kick into the breeze, and good enterprise by John Davis, and he's misfired it. Webber waits, Cranton waits, and if he could flip it away, Newport could counter-attack. But he's not quick enough, and the play's confined inside the Newport 22. Barnard comes away, and now it's come away to Newport, and here goes Webber, slipping it inside to Leighton Davis, and now the pressure's back on Cardiff. That is a cavalier way of counter-attacking, and it's paid off. The first time Newport have been in the Cardiff half then for something like 12 or 15 minutes. Smart, the captain. Billinghurst kick. It could be a mistake by the scrum half anyway, it doesn't matter, he hadn't made a lot of ground anyway. He's another of the youngsters who dot the field. Just 19 is young Alan Billinghurst, playing in schools rugby last year, now in the cup final. Cardiff's 10-metre line. For once they win. Smith supplies Edwards out to Paul Evans, ignoring Murphy and Finlayson, testing Leighton Davis. That's well done. Leighton Davis has, on the whole, had a splendid game for Newport, like a rock as the last line of defence. The crowd right behind the two teams. 10 minutes left, and I have remarked how much it would mean to Cardiff to win this cup in their centenary year. It would mean just as much to Newport to frustrate their century-old rivals. It's the greatest rivalry in club rugby. Newport are onside, and Jeff Squire knows it, and he takes Edwards. And it's into the hands of Rogers. Things inside, aiming to find Billinghurst. Smith is there to hold on. And even if it's not exhibition rugby, it's still marvellous stuff for a cup final. The best cup final we've seen for several years, as far as excitement's concerned, and probably enterprise too. The 22 of Cardiff on the left. Barnard won for Newport. It reaches the midfield. Neil Brown. Oh, he's made the break! And they're 3-2, and Cranton have to hand off Gerald Davis, and they've done it! Cranton's got in for the try to make it 14-9. And look at the excitement. And it was the suspect Newport midfield which created it for the second time. Newport win at the line-out through Barnard. The break is made by Neil Brown. The pass is a long one to Cranton, and he defeats Gerald Davis's attempted smother tackle to get in at the flag. So each of Newport's wings has scored in the cup final, and that's not a bad achievement for a midfield who are considered to be second stringers, Neil Brown and Chris Webber. Well, if this conversion goes over, Cardiff will again be 2 scores away from glory, and there'll be less than 8 minutes to go by that time. But for Chris Webber, who's demonstrated his big boot more than once, this is a demanding kick. Webber. That's travelling. Oh, he's done it! Chris Webber kicks Newport into the lead that could be decisive at 16-9. 7 minutes of the cup final left, and the Black and Ambers have their tails up and are within reach of great glory. Barnard, an uncharacteristic piece of mishandling, and there's no advantage in it for Cardiff, or is there? As Gerald Davis goes for the ball and Murphy tries to drive through, and Mr. Kenneth Thomas takes them back across field. Cardiff still with everything to do then, as Edwards supplies Paul Evans. Puts it over Cranton's head. That's the try scorer, and there could be a penalty against him because he bobbed the ball into the crowd and he's shaking his head with disgust. It was a delaying tactic, and he's given Cardiff a penalty out 15 metres in. Mervyn Davies, have you ever seen any incident quite like that?
Not recently, I must admit. It is a delaying tactic, obviously, and the time is very short for Cardiff, and I think he got his just rewards.
I seem to remember Ireland conceding a penalty, something like that, at Twickenham by flipping the ball deliberately into touch 6 or 7 years ago. Indeed, I think it cost them a Triple Crown. And Jeff Cranton will be hoping that this mistake of his doesn't help to cost Newport the cup. John Davis first has to extract the penalty, but it's a miss by him, and Jeff Cranton feels a lot better now after that. Big relief. Colin Smart perhaps telling the boys there are 5 minutes left for us to hold this lead, maybe even expand it, and at least keep Cardiff at bay via Dudley Jones and now Lane. And Gareth Edwards, that long pass gives the midfield a bit of clearance, which they squander, and John Davis can't tidy it up either. We'll hear from Mervyn Davis about the tactical side of the game at the end. I'm inclined to think Cardiff have lost this game in the midfield, which is not shaped. That's a bit anxious on the part of that blue and black supporter. Newport, says the crowd. steps away to touch. Two minutes only separate Newport from the Welsh Rugby Union Challenge Cup. Dudley Jones, Gareth Edwards, Paul Evans, Finlayson now, Roger Lane, and Murphy's break. Needs to give it now to Gerald Davis. Can the captain produce some magic? Morgan is marked, plays it to Finlayson. Paul Evans looking for a second try against his old club. Back to Finlayson. Roger Lane's gone out to take Finlayson's place. Gerald Davis is in the centre. There must be too much cover even for Gerald. This is Murphy. And now Carl Smith. Cardiff are desperately trying to stretch Newport and beat that big defence. Paul Evans shifting it infield, gobbled up by Barrell. Newport anxious to kill this ball once and for all and steady the whole thing down. Kenneth Thomas, curious to know where it is. Gareth Edwards knew. Paul Evans over Ken Davis. You said Camilleri's travelling awfully fast, and it's a difficult bounce for Ken Davis. But three Newport men are there. Paul Evans arrives to try and play Camilleri away. And Barry Nelms, the Cardiff vice-captain, is there from prop number 1. The try line of Newport is right there. The ball is with Newport, and that's David Ford's clearing kick. And the boys are very slow to get off the ground. They've given all, and they're tired getting up. In the Newport box, you see on the left, just behind Howell Thomas, president of the Welsh Rugby Union, you can see the Newport hierarchy. There's a clear view of Alf Planting, one of their committee men, chairman of Newport Athletic Club with the badge on. Cardiff faces away to the right, looking a bit glum. Alan Priday and Lynn Evans not looking too happy. And indeed they should be, because back on the field, we're going into injury time. And the deficit is still a clear 7. Half a minute into injury time. Can Gareth Edwards pull something out from this position close to Newport's try line? He delivers it to Finlayson. The movement telescoped. Barnard dropped him well, as he needed to, with a try on there. And the quality of this mauling play of Newport has commanded our admiration right through the game, and they've stifled all that. Injury time goes on then. 1 minute left. Cardiff through Lane, trying to take the pressure from Edwards, taking on Poole and Barnard, and being turned, and they are penalised. And Cardiff cannot afford to kick this. They're bound to run it, as long as they know that we're into injury time. And there's a ploy on, and they're going to try and force their way across the line. Newport only needed to go back to their try line. Dudley Jones may have got the try. Yes, he has. And the big question is, has it come too late to keep Cardiff alive? Newport conceding the penalty. Cardiff's drive. Then they handle the ball, freed it for Dudley Jones to race in and score the try that makes it 16-13. And John Davis, 20 metres away, not wasting any time at all. And makes it 1 point between them again. Cardiff have come up then to 16-15. John Davis's conversion. Everything depends on the man in red, Kenneth Thomas. And when he decides that enough injury time has been allowed, we could not have had a more noble climax to the domestic rugby season in Wales. A magnificent cup final, some good rugby in it, a great spirit, and a tremendous feather in the cap of Welsh rugby, and in particular of these two clubs. And in, I should say, 60 or 80 seconds time, we'll know which of them has clinched it. I think that was done deliberately by Leighton Davis. He kicked it dead. He knew the end was at hand. Newport have come to the National Stadium and have taken the cup by 1 point, 16-15. And in Welsh Cup rugby, the pendulum of power has swung right across the southern part of the nation, from Llanelli to the River Usk, and Newport are indeed noble successors to them. maybe that is something that Mervyn Davies, sitting by my side, will agree with.
Well, certainly well won by Newport, a tremendous performance, a team performance. They really worked hard throughout the game. They're well coached and well really, how shall I say, they were really prepared to take this cup final, and they were. I must admit, their attitude was fantastic. I can't remember a side so organised as they are.
Dave Dragons have done it, Mervyn. They referred to Dave Burcho, who's going off on the Lions tour.
Indeed. Well, they did it without him. They did it without him, and I'm sure he was overjoyed. You know, I'm sure he must be going through his mind, not playing, and then suddenly finding himself. This team winning anyway. It's still a fantastic performance by Newport. They controlled the game for vast periods of the game. Only on 1 or 2 occasions did they let that slip when Cardiff scored their first try. But otherwise, it was Newport's game all the way, to my mind.
There's the Welsh Rugby Union's elegant bauble. And Colin Smart, the man from Kent, who came to play rugby in South Wales and stayed on to join Newport, takes the cup on behalf of the Black and Ambers. The cup is in Gwent.
Here's the successful captain, Colin Smart. Many, many congratulations. The first question must seem a bit obvious, but what does it feel like for an Englishman to win the Welsh Cup?
Absolutely delighted. I don't think it matters whether I'm English, Welsh, Irish or French. It's just great to be out there today, and I think the team did marvellously well, and we're all delighted to have won the cup.
Did you feel at any point in the game at all that it could have slipped away?
Oh, it was a very close game all the way through, Brian. I think especially when it came to 10-9, and they came back with a lot of momentum behind them, and then again when it came to 16-15, even though it was only for a couple of seconds, I think it was a very close game all the way through, really.
Colin, obviously the replacements who came in for your 2 Lions, they excelled themselves, absolutely.
All did marvellously well, marvellously well.
They've held the cup up so we can have a look at it. It's a beauty. Looking back over it, which do you feel was the hardest game of the entire competition?
Well, we had a very hard game in the quarterfinals against Newbridge. We had a very, very hard game down at Tumble, and of course the semi-final was a very hard game as well. But I think really the tension and for the fact that it was so close all the way through, I think today's game was the hardest of the lot, really.
I've got Keith Poole here, the man who's supposed to be the veteran. How many times have you
I'm only 29, actually. 29.
Keith, how does it feel like?
Fantastic. Great. The best feel I've ever had since the All Blacks in 1963. And that was 13 years ago, but this is the greatest game since that. And the most enjoyable. I enjoyed every bloody minute of it.
Your tackling was absolutely
well, we had a plan, and I think it worked. Gareth Edwards, when he went over that line, and just had to go for it.
What was the plan?
To bloody block out Gareth Edwards and Paul Evans. That was the bloody plan. I think it worked. I think Paul got away once and he scored. I was on the other side of the scum, mind, but that was a plan and it worked great.
David Rogers wearing the famous number 10. I'm talking to nothing but veterans. They tell me.
That's right. I haven't got my teeth in either, so it looks even worse.
How many games, in fact, have you played for Newport?
About 110 all told. In about 13 seasons.
You played in the United for a long time.
I was captain for the United for 3 seasons. Yeah.
So you must be absolutely thrilled to get your.
Yeah.
Well, let's lift it up. Your tankard.
Yeah. Thrilled a bit.
There's Leighton Davis.
Thank you.
Leighton, he looks in fact as if he's pregnant, but I think he's got the ball. Shall we have a look at it? Oh, there it is. That is it. And you managed to get it at the end. You look remarkably fit and calm in spite of it all.
Oh, it's a hard game. Fair play to Cardiff. They took us all away, but in the end, we came through,
Let's get Alan Billinghurst here. The baby of the team, just 19, I think. It's a little bit difficult for us to make ourselves heard because there's obviously a lot going on here. Any particular points about the game that you care to remember?
Oh, there's all tries. Tries superb. There's the feeling there when they score, especially the last one going off and they leave the pressure for us. Oh, excellent. I can't imagine it.
Where's Jeff Cranton and Ken Davis? Where are they?
There's Jeff.
Jeff. Come on over here, Jeff. There's one of the try scorers here, Jeff Cranton, of course. A superb try, beautifully executed. How did the game go from your point of view?
Wonderful to play and tremendous. Too much, can't believe it.
Well, great spirit. Well done, Jeff. Let's have a word with the Lions now. David, will you come over here just for a moment, please. And Gareth Evans, of course, with you. As club captain, even though you weren't playing today, I must congratulate you. What sort of decision was it for you to take not to play in this very important game?
I think one of the most well, important decisions of our life and our most difficult, I think, that we'll ever likely come across. I think if the game had been played 2 weeks ago when the English Cup final was being played, there wouldn't have been any doubt we'd have played. But with a week before we meet in London, it was, you know, very important.
And Gareth Evans, what did it feel like to you to, in fact, to be in the stand watching the match here?
Well, both of us hate watching games, you know, and the final was even worse than the Barbarians game a few weeks ago, wasn't it? But full credit to the boys who came in, Neil Brown and Chris Webber, both had magnificent games today.
Well, good luck to you two when you go down to New Zealand. Let's get Brian Jones over here, the club coach. Come on, Brian, you
absolutely over the moon, Brian. What a fantastic year. You know, great for these two blokes going off to represent us in New Zealand. The Whitbread merit table already in our pockets, and now this. What a magnificent final.
Well, I think we ought to congratulate everybody, all the players who've taken part in the competition, all the officials. Everybody's done absolutely marvellous.
Oh, absolutely superb.